You're very welcome back to the show now. Whether you're a smoker who's tried everything to quit or you have an irrational fear of something, then why not give a hypnotherapy a try? Hypnosis taps into the subconscious mind and can help overcome fears and even tackle depression and anxiety. I'm delighted now to be joined by Wayne P. Hennessy, a clinical hypnotherapist, to tell us more. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much indeed, Elaine.
I suppose we've these ideas of hypnosis from things we see in the television, people pretending to be a chicken and going around the place like that, and look into my mind, you were a dog, bark, and stuff like that. It's very much different to what you do, isn't it?
It's very much different. It's actually, Elaine, it's worlds apart from what we do. And what we do is we administer hypnosis in a clinical setting, clinical environment, and we help people with emotionally based conditions. That's the primary driver of what it is that we do and deliver in our clinics every day. Of course, we do the quit smoking sessions.
Yeah.
We do the weight loss sessions, and equally as passionate as we do. But 80% of the volume of the work that we do is helping people to overcome the symptoms of, say, anxiety or depression, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and various other things also as well.
Can anyone actually be hypnotized in that manner?
In
the way you do, like how because as I said, the bits and pieces that you see, you're out of control of your arms and your actions, the kind of the showman side of it. But in the therapeutic side of it, is everyone capable of going into these states? These what did you say they're theta states, beta states? What way do you describe it?
The theta range. It's the imagination range as well. And what we look to do for is to say, for example, you wake up every day, you're 100% analytical. You wake up every morning and you're consciously going through your day every day, and that's your conscious mind. It's tasked with, it's your go-to mind, what to do today mind, what to do tomorrow mind, and it doesn't have very many other functions as well. Your willpower and short-term memory is in there. Your logic and your reason and your rationale is in there as well. But there's another part of your mind that's housed much, much deeper. That's your thinking, of your feelings and your emotions. And they're two, although it's the same mind, but they've got two very, very different functions. But everybody can achieve it. And the only way that, I suppose, in the only circumstances that it would be challenging for somebody, and if not impossible for some people, would be if they, say, have schizophrenia, for example, or if they had an acquired brain injury that would render them incapable of following suggestions. Yeah. So that would be the only parameters that we, say, wouldn't employ the clinical hypnosis model for somebody like that.
How does it actually work?
It works it's a beautiful thing, you see, because hypnosis and hypnotherapy, it has to be an incredible experience. It really does have to be an incredible experience. And in my view, working with people over the years, the single biggest block that everybody might have, and it's I suppose it's the idea that the fear of hypnosis, I'd say, first of all. Everybody might, say, attach hypnosis to stage hypnosis. You'd have that, maybe they've been on holiday in Corfu in the 80s, and maybe they've seen one of those hypnosis shows, and it hasn't been, it never ends well, really. But I suppose in regards to helping people, it is very, very easy to enter into that state, but it all boils down to the connection that you have with your client, the therapist, and built on that, it's the foundation of a fantastic session. You know, we would never want anybody to ever feel vulnerable in relation to any aspect of work that we would employ for anybody that's in our care. So the idea of going into hypnosis is an agreeable state. It's agreeable, but we always bring people back to the idea that, you know, hypnosis on one hand, over at this side is the stage sensationalist, ego-driven, if even that, stage hypnosis. But you know, when people arrive in our clinics, they're suffering from chronic anxiety, for example. They are overwhelmed by depression, and they're, I suppose, really affected by the panic disorders that's affecting them every day in their lives. So that's where we go to work. Now, nobody wants to feel those conditions, those, I suppose, them feelings. You know, you don't want to be affected by them. So what we're looking at doing there is really helping them to, I suppose, resolve subconsciously.
Yeah. And that's the interesting part, because the hypnotic state is between the subconscious and the conscious. I mean, you've likened it to daydreaming. It's like we all do it. We're all capable. You're staring to space and you go off away with the fairies, as my mother used to call it. And you get someone into that state and work with them on that kind of in between consciousness
the
level.
important part is to reduce the capacity of the conscious mind to interfere with the work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, for example, that your conscious mind is 100% analytical every day, it's processing information, it's observing your environment, looking out for possible threats in your environment, and it's your go-to mind. But when you come into a clinical setting for the purpose of hypnosis, for example, it's the therapist that will now, I suppose, reduce the capacity of the conscious mind to be analytical by reducing it down to, say, 0.5%. And what it is, from 100% down to 0.5%, it's now in a docile state. It's, you know, it's the individual is more open to suggestion as opposed to questioning the suggestion. You see, so there's very specific processes that the clinical hypnotherapist will employ, and certainly from our perspective, mental cognitive processing techniques. So what we do is we apply a lot of pressure to the conscious mind by giving it a number of cognitive tasks prior to going into hypnosis. And what that does is it applies...
What do you mean by cognitive tasks?
Well, you see, we're looking at for the individual to apply cognition. Because we're not working with the conscious mind, we're working with the subconscious mind. Now, there's only one way to enter into the subconscious mind, and that is directly through the conscious mind. So what we're looking to do is we employ these let's say, these processing techniques, cognitive techniques. So by applying them to the client is then given a task cognitively. They will go through one round of that, therefore...
Give me an example of, so people would understand an example of
what
this.
we would do is say...
is it like a metronome or something like that? Or do you know the cliche of the watch swinging?
No, swinging watches, no. But what we would say, for example, I'll just give you a broad example. I would ask the client to say, just imagine that they're holding a pen in each hand, for example. And beneath each hand there's a blank piece of paper. And on one side over here on the left, I'll ask them to imagine they're writing something here. I'll give them something to write there. And on the right-hand side, I give them something to write at the same time. Now, you know, they're applying cognition here, you see. So we've now directed our conscious mind to a task.
So I'm doing this now. I consciously know what I'm doing, and you're giving me a task.
Yeah, and your eyes are closed at this point. So you're now imagining this in your mind. And the idea behind it is to overwhelm the conscious mind, give it something to do, and very, very quickly after that, then give it a way out. So, for example, on a count of 1, 2, 3, I want you to imagine that you've just put down both of those pens now.
Yeah.
So the moment the client has stopped cognitively processing it's like the conscious mind just kind of relaxes there a little bit. But because we insist on a really, really a beautiful depth of trance, we roll out another one of those for them, for the person. So we're going through 2 rounds of those. And by the time we get to the 2 rounds of them, the conscious mind that would normally be sitting on your shoulder, analysing everything, what time is it, or where have I to go after this? And so we don't want that conscious interference at all in the session. So we reduce the conscious mind's capacity to interfere with the suggestions, and therefore now we're entering into the subconscious program. So what we do then is we go through a process of dissociation. So we dissociate somebody into, say, a beautifully imagined scene, for example, and then we go through a process of deepening. So, but it is a very, very simple process. There's no mystery at all. There's you know, I've worked with people and we've come out of sessions and they've walked away with the wow factor because it was a world apart from what it was that they had first originally presumed hypnosis to be.
Yeah.
And for them to have come out of our session, say, for example, with their experience, because it's really important as well. You know, I would love to be able to proclaim that I'm the Messiah. I'm by no measure the Messiah in any regard. It's very important for me, or in my view, any hypnotherapist for that matter, it's important for the client to know that was their hypnosis. It's very personal to them. Yeah. It was also their experience as well. Yeah. So
once you're in this very deep state, that's when you can lead them on their path, their chosen therapy, be it anxiety, be it depression. I know a lot of people do it for phobias, a fear of heights, a fear of flying and things like that. So how many sessions would one need?
Well, that varies depending on the presentation of the condition. Let's just say somebody comes in for wanting to quit smoking. It's a one single session and it's all done and done in that session. if somebody comes in and they're suffering from the symptoms that are related to experiences of their lives that have left them to become very anxious, for example, it can be anything from 2 sessions straight through to, say, 4 hours of therapy, which would be broken into, say, 3 sessions, maybe 4 sessions at the very outset. So you would introduce somebody into their first experience of hypnosis, so you can let them see what it's about, so they can really enjoy it. And then into that second session, you're now able to break in with the full confidence of the client to break into the condition itself.
What would your success rate be? I mean, does it work for everybody, or some people it just...
There is, look, you know, this is another big question that's often asked of a clinical hypnotherapist, or any therapist for that matter. What is your success rate? Well, our success rate is based on that we bring 100% of our skills, we bring 100% of our passion, and the success comes about when you're met with an equally motivated client. And a passionately motivated clinical hypnotherapist in this case.
And that's the perfect merge.
And that's the perfect merge.
But if you've somebody who's doubting or may do it, it possibly won't work.
Yeah, for example, let's say if somebody just said that their husband wants to quit smoking, and the wife goes ahead and she makes the appointment for him, and he's only had to get in wind of it, and he's not quite ready to give up cigarettes. I mean, he'd probably go along to the session just to appease his wife.
Yeah,
and then,
so that's not going to really work.
Yeah,
is
so
it?
you haven't got a motivated client at this point, you see.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look at the success rates, I mean, the success rate of hypnosis is 97.5% in all of its applications.
Yeah, well, we're after running, actually. We're going way over time here in this. I could talk to you about this all day. I'm fascinated by it, but thank you so much for joining us
You're
today. It's
very
been an
welcome.
absolute pleasure, and we must get you on again
Absolutely.
to talk about maybe more specific things like phobias, because I know a lot of people
Absolutely.
suffer with that. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much indeed.